Welcome to the 18th episode of the 1796 podcast, a monthly podcast that features exclusive interviews and in-depth news about the Tennessee National Guard and the Tennessee Military Department. The 1796 podcast is produced every month by the airmen and soldiers of the Tennessee National Guard Joint Public Affairs Office.
I'm Lieutenant Colonel Malone.
And I'm Captain Hall, your co-hosts of the 1796 podcast. On this episode, we are bringing you coverage from Bulgaria, where Thracian Sentry 2023 is taking place. Thracian Sentry is an international joint exercise between the Tennessee National Guard, Bulgaria, and Greece, all made possible through the National Guard's State Partnership Program. Over the course of the exercise, Lieutenant Colonel Malone had the opportunity to interview multiple participants and key leaders. So now we turn to Colonel Malone.
All right, this is Lieutenant Colonel Malone, and I'm in Bulgaria for Thracian Sentry, and we're just going to dive right into it. I've got a guest here with me today. First off, tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Senior Master Sergeant James Cobb. I'm from the 164th Tennessee Air Guard out of Memphis.
Awesome. Thanks for talking to us today. All right.
Glad to be here.
First off, tell us where we are.
So we are in Graf Air Base in Bulgaria.
Awesome, and that is in Plovdiv, right?
It is, right
That's
outside of the city.
Yeah, we had a beautiful drive in today to get here. It was great. All right. So what are you doing here during your visit to Bulgaria?
So the state partnership is allowing us to train multiple firemen in our aircraft. Mm-hmm. And so we have the partnership where we train them on our platform, and they train us on theirs.
Yeah. So you get to see some of their aircraft?
Absolutely.
And you're training them to fire and rescue for future aircraft that they're getting.
Absolutely.
And those are U.S.-based type aircraft. Okay, cool. What have you gotten out of your time here?
It's always nice to travel, and you get to meet the interesting people, the culture, and experience just the overall vibe of the country and how pleasant these people really are.
Oh, that's awesome. And a lot of those are military members, right? Bulgarian
Absolutely.
military and Bulgarian Air Force.
Yes.
Awesome.
Our counterparts.
Yes. And why is that important?
It's important that we build these partnerships because we're all part of NATO, and we want to make sure that we keep the NATO alliance strong, and that we're sharing our information to our partners to have a stronger alliance.
Perfect. All right, Lieutenant Colonel Malone again, and I'm back with another guest. First off, tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Staff Sergeant Shane Conity from the 164th Airlift Wing out of Memphis, Tennessee.
Sergeant Conity, welcome to the 1796 podcast.
Thanks.
Hey, first off, tell us where we are.
We're in Graf Air Base, right outside of Plovdiv, Bulgaria.
And what are you doing on your visit to Bulgaria?
So we're here to work with our partners in the Bulgarian Air Force to train with them, get them working to NATO standard in regards to fire and rescue capabilities.
Yeah. And what have you gotten out of your time in Bulgaria?
Well, I've really enjoyed meeting the people and experiencing the culture. The Bulgarian Air Force has a lot of great folks out here. Everyone's been super nice. A lot of them speak amazing English, so they've been really just a pleasure to interact with.
And why is all that important?
You know, I'm really excited about this mission because I think especially with events going on in the world right now, strengthening NATO is pretty critically important to United States interests. So this is an exciting opportunity for me to help with that.
That's perfect. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Lieutenant Colonel Malone back in Bulgaria with a new guest. All right, tell us who you are.
Hi, my name is Sergeant First Class Patrick Stellick. I'm with
right.
the Tennessee Army National Guard.
Awesome. Good to have you with us. All right, tell the listeners where we are.
We are in Charlista, Bulgaria, which is a national military training center just outside of Sofia.
Yeah. And what do they do here? Do you know?
It's kind of like their version of NTC back home.
National Training Center.
The National Training Center back home, right?
Yeah.
It's their version. It's actually one of the largest. It's one of two, but this is the largest or second largest in the country.
Cool. All right. What are you doing during your visit to Bulgaria?
So I am part of the Joint Adaptive Battle Staff for Thracian Sentry 23, assisting with Colonel Jackson and running the JOC, or the Joint Operations Center here, and working with my Bulgarian counterpart within the intelligence shop, or the two, and we are creating products to update their command team, and we brief them and try to create a joint environment and share knowledge.
And they brought a similar organization too, not just your counterpart, but what's that called?
Joint Forces Command, or JFC.
What have you gotten out of your time here?
I've actually learned quite a bit. I've definitely enjoyed that the dynamic when it comes to how we are used to domestic operations or domestic response back home, the process is similar, but it's also very complex and different. Kind of like what you and I were discussing earlier here, right?
Before we came on. Yeah.
Before we came on here.
Yeah.
So just a quick synopsis for the
please.
listeners. They have multiple units throughout their 28 different municipalities here within Bulgaria. Each unit has about 100 soldiers that is specifically trained for a very specific event, i.e. flooding, landslides, earthquakes, things of that nature. And then whatever the unit that is closest is the one that after the Department of Interior or the Ministry of the Interior, excuse me, to the Ministry of Defense, then to the JFC, and then that unit goes out and helps. So it's similar, but it's a little different.
Yeah.
But it's a very unique dynamic. And now that we're here, what's interesting is that there's actually a real world event happening right now that we just briefed their command team on, and that they are aware of, that they've got 100 service members right now helping with cleanup efforts on the flood event in the District of Montana.
Yeah.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Why is it important that we do this?
It's very simple. If you want to build relations, how we always stress communication back home, correct? You have to work with people. You can't just stay within your comfort zone, right? So you have to get out there and meet people, learn from other people. It doesn't matter what country they're from, where they're at. With the open line of communication and learning and talking and opening up those lines with each other is very, very important.
Yeah.
That's how you build partnerships. That's how you build relationships, not just for the immediate, but also for the future.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, sir.
right.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Sergeant Stellick.
All right, bye.
Lieutenant Colonel Malone back here in Bulgaria with a new guest. All right, tell us who you are.
My name is Staff Sergeant Cintron. I am with the Tennessee Air National Guard at the 118th Logistics Readiness Squadron.
All right, and where are we right now?
We are currently at the National Military Training Complex in Chadalitsa, Bulgaria.
Nice. All right. And what are you doing at this training center in Bulgaria? What's your job during the visit?
Well, here it's a very team effort, being a part of the Joint Adaptive Battle Staff in conjunction with the Bulgarian Joint Forces to conduct this exercise and combine our logistics, tactics, and also our strategies.
All right. And your job specifically on the battle staff is?
Logistics.
Logistics, yeah. And what have you gotten out of your visit here?
Being able to connect with the Bulgarian military and learn what their roles are here and how they adapt to their challenges, and being able to give them a little bit of insight on our challenges and how we face them, and just being able to learn off of each other.
Yeah. Why is all that important?
Well, it's important because in order for us to conduct this exercise and continue to do so, being able to just grow this state partnership program, it's really why we do this.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course, absolutely.
Thanks. All right, we are back again. This is Lieutenant Colonel Malone in Bulgaria. We have a new guest. Tell us who you are.
Hello, sir. My name is Captain Melanie Slayton, and I'm with JFHQ Nashville, Tennessee.
Welcome to the podcast. All right. Next, tell us where we are.
Well, sir, we are currently sitting in a lobby at one of the Bulgarian military training complexes.
Yeah, no, we sure are. Actually, it's a pretty comfy chair. It's nice.
Absolutely.
All right. What are you doing on your visit to Bulgaria?
So I am actually participating as part of the A3 AOB Air Operations branch, working beside one of our Bulgarian partners. He's actually an Air Force member in their military, and he is the part of the Joint Forces Department.
Yeah, in Air Operations branch. So what is that? What are y'all doing while you're...
So our main function here is we are tracking all the incoming flights in and out of the country, and the people, the equipment on those flights, and basically making sure they get here safely and on time.
And making sure the bosses know.
Absolutely.
That's
yes,
right.
sir.
All right. And what have you gotten out of your time here?
Well, I have really, really enjoyed working beside the Bulgarian military members. They've taught us that they are a very young democracy, and they are extremely eager to learn our ways, or, the ways of our government, and to build off of that. And they're also very supportive of our alliance together. And we can actually learn a lot from them, just seeing the way that they operate. And honestly, sir, understanding that we are extremely lucky in the United States. You know, there's a lot of things that we take for granted.
Yeah.
And I've learned here, these people really, really envy us and want to learn from us.
So then you may have answered my next question. Why is all this important?
Well, sir, that to build off of that, this state partnership that we're participating in, it's just really building a strong foundation to ensure the relationship with our allies is just a powerful one to stand strong. And it just really assures that we can work together effectively in the future.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the podcast. All right, this is Lieutenant Colonel Malone, still in Bulgaria, and we have a new guest with us. First off, tell us who you are.
This is Lieutenant Colonel Donnie Allen. I serve as a Deputy State Surgeon for the Tennessee Army National Guard.
Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. All right, first off, tell us where we are.
So we are currently in Sofia, Bulgaria, at the Military Medical Association. This is where the Bulgarians practice and train their medical forces.
Awesome. That's perfect. Okay, so what are you doing during your visit to Bulgaria and here at the medical center?
Yes, so when we arrived, we received an in-brief on what their capabilities are for their military medical personnel and program. And we spent the last couple of days touring their facilities, and they have a new simulation center that was stood up about a year ago where they train their military folks. So we spent some time observing their training. They just completed their first combat paramedic training course where they graduated their first 6 individuals.
Oh, that's great. And y'all helped get them across the line.
So we've been in partnership with the medical folks over here for about 7 years. And so we spent some time helping them develop and write their SOPs, help them develop new capabilities. Like I said, this was the first time that they have graduated a combat paramedic. So we helped them to define what capabilities these personnel needed, help them establish their training program, and then write their testing requirements so that they can certify these individuals.
That's great. Historic event. All right. What have you gotten out of your time here?
Obviously, it has been a very enlightening experience to work with our partners and our allies and to understand what they bring as far as medical resources. And so it is a good understanding, and it helps broaden my knowledge on what their capabilities are. So I would say that is first. And then secondly, it is an opportunity to share best practices because at the end of the day, it's about preserving the fighting force. And so if we can share best practices, lessons learned from previous combat experience so that we can sustain and preserve the fighting force, then we're all better in the next engagement.
Yeah, and why? You may have answered it. I was going to ask, why is all that important?
It's important because we never know what the next engagement that we'll be in, and we don't, we have ideas of what future combat conflicts may look like. Next large-scale combat operation, being able to provide medical care at point of injury, to sustain life, to provide prolonged field care, and to evacuate injured personnel back to definitive care is critical in order to sustain operations and ultimately to save lives and return sons and daughters back home.
Yeah. Thank you. I really appreciate your time. All right, Lieutenant Colonel Malone back in Bulgaria with a new guest. All right, tell us who you are.
I am Tech Sergeant Jesse Gullett. I'm with the 118th Medical Group based out of Nashville, Tennessee.
Awesome. And where are we today?
We're currently at the Military Medical Academy at Sofia in Bulgaria.
What have you been doing with and at the Military Medical Academy during your time here?
So we're doing a few things, but the primary thing we're doing here is helping the Bulgarian medical facility here achieve their level 1 military treatment facility NATO certification. And with that, we've been reviewing some of their procedures and operating guidelines. Also, we've going to get to evaluate their Role 1 treatment facility in a mass casualty event and just assist them in that process.
Great. And what have you gotten out of your time here?
I've gotten to really be able to humble myself coming up here. Is a humbling process to see them so eager to progress and achieve this. So nice to see that process.
Yeah.
With that, they just graduated their first group of combat paramedics. And to me, that means a lot because as a civilian, I'm a paramedic and I do medical in the military. So as to be able to see their first class of military, or they call them combat paramedics, graduate, that was one, it instilled a lot of pride in me because, you know, it's almost like watching myself graduate, you know, it's so nice. And it's their first class. So just to be able to witness that and be part of that history is amazing.
And I understand they had to actually change their laws to allow, because like everything, it's got a governing body to allow those individuals to get that certification. So that's really cool.
Yes. So similar to our medics in the military, we have a counterpart towards civilian side. So when you go into the military, you can do the civilian work too. And that's one of the hurdles from my understanding that they've had to be able to overcome, and some of the laws they had to pass to be able to achieve that goal in itself. So to make that job more attractive to citizens to want to join the military is that way now they can do the combat paramedic and then have a civilian job on the outside.
Cool. All right. And so why is all this important?
Well, to begin, it's a great partnership. You know, it's something that we get to do as the Tennessee Air National Guard, and also the Army Guard is here with us as well, working with our state partner, their partners, also to assist a fellow NATO country into achieving something that one small step in a many.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Hey, this is Lieutenant Colonel Malone back in Bulgaria. Got a new guest with us. First off, tell us who you are.
Sure. I'm Staff Sergeant Carissa Patterson with the Tennessee Army National Guard, and I am a combat medic.
Awesome. And tell us where we are.
Right now, we are in a hospital in Bulgaria.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
And what have you been doing while you're here?
So while I have been here, we have had an amazing opportunity to work side by side with our counterparts here in Bulgaria with their medical teams and kind of learn how they do things and how we do things.
What have you gotten out of this experience?
You know, I think the greatest thing that I've seen since we've been here is we had the ability to watch, I guess, the Bulgarians' first medical class graduate. These soldiers have been in school for the past year, and to be able to be a part of that and see what I consider to be history in the making of seeing their first combat medics, what would be, they call themselves paramedics, graduate. And that was, to me, the most amazing thing. How many people can say they saw the first medical class graduate?
And why is that and all the things we're doing here this month important?
It's important because I think we all do the same job. To be able to understand how they work, understand how we work, and see our differences and see our how we are alike too. And it's been a great experience.
That's awesome. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
All right, we are back, and now we have a special guest, and I'm going to let him introduce himself. First off, tell us who you are.
Hello, everyone. Major Angelwolf, Lubomir Angelwolf. I am part of the Global Health Engagement community. We report to the Office of the Command Surgeon General at USAFE Africa, Ramstein Air Base. We're stationed there, and as international health specialist, I'm glad to be part of this event.
Awesome, thank you. And just for our listeners, Major Angelov is an U.S. Air Force officer, active duty. We got a lot of Guard listeners, so just wanted to clarify that. All right, you told us who you are. Tell us where we are.
We are in Bulgaria, Military Medical Academy.
Okay, perfect. And what have you been doing on this visit to Bulgaria?
Thank you for the invitation. We've been happy to participate in the event for Role 1, Knowledge Exchange, within the partner nations and NATO nations.
So Role 1 is a level of medical care, the level of a medical facility.
Yes, it's part of the combat readiness for units on battalion level.
Yep.
preparedness and responding to medical emergencies during battlefield and during civil engagements.
And what have you gotten out of your time here?
So first, it's important to say that within the NATO nations, the most important part is interoperability. And this is one of the goals that we have been looking forward to achieve with our partner nations, the Bulgarians, military medics, to be able to share knowledge between both countries, US and Bulgaria, specific to the medical readiness, medical field care, point of injury, transfer of injured patients from one level of medical emergency to a higher level and so on, utilizing different and various assets such as vehicles to move patients and also moving into higher echelons such as air evacuation.
Right. So that interoperability, that knowledge of each other's systems and how they work.
Yes, and this is really important, and one of the reasons why it's so important is that each one of our nations is able to perform certain capabilities with the main goal is saving lives. However, sometimes we have to make sure that we know each other's capabilities, we know how we operate on the field, and the importance of this comes to play when there are mixed teams. So NATO, as a multinational organization, shares the resources between each one of the nations, between one of the units. Example, I can say with the Role 1 that we are right now on the current event, where we have mix of US members, it can be also other NATO nations, and also the Bulgarian military medics. So knowing the approach, knowing the procedures, knowing the equipment that can be utilized within this Role 1 as a medical asset, and knowing also the job descriptions and the level of experience and training each one of the members can bring to the team is paramount so that all forces in NATO can align within the medical field and can operate as a team.
Fabulous. All right, last question. Why is all of this important?
So the most important part is NATO as a structure is important in order to be able to protect the assets in the countries that are part of NATO. With this event, our goal is synchronization of efforts, command leadership synchronization, and also being able to share that critical knowledge between both nations with the final goal, interoperability, protection of assets, protection of all the members of NATO in case of malign interests from other nations that are not friendly, unfriendly nations.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes.
No, that's perfect. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate having you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for being here and observing our great event. And we're looking forward to operate in the future with the Bulgarian military medics, developing more assets and more capabilities.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Got a brand new guest for you. Sir, tell us who you are.
My name's Francisco Magallon, though I go by Mags. And I have the great pleasure to serve as the Gender Advisor and Women, Peace and Security Program Manager at U.S. European Command.
Welcome to the podcast. Okay, tell us where we are.
Well, I also have the great fortune to be here in Sofia, Bulgaria.
Yeah.
It's a pretty exciting time. The exciting thing is I'm here in Bulgaria at the Ministry of Defense working with our Bulgarian partners, who I have the great opportunity to meet for the very first time face-to-face. We've been working together virtually for months now, and having the opportunity to meet them face-to-face is pretty exciting. And I have to share, like the initiative we're working on is pretty amazing because it's U.S. European Command, or EUCOM's, proof of concept for applying the WPS principles to our security cooperation arena, which itself is pretty exciting because we have the opportunity to not only move forward on this effort with our Bulgarian partners, but to do it in the company of the Tennessee National Guard, which is incredibly huge because we have a 30-year relationship to capitalize on, and that opened a lot of doors for us. On this topic and this agenda is pretty important. It's one of my commander's priorities, and it's focusing on gender inclusivity, which is a NATO core mission, and also applying gender perspective to our military operations. And thanks to tremendous efforts of the Tennessee National Guard, to our UCOM staff, to the ODC team here in Bulgaria, we're able to make this happen. And our Bulgarian partners have been welcoming with open arms, and they're excited to work with us. So this will kick off our 2-year initiative, and we're excited and making progress.
So you mentioned you've been meeting with these people virtually during this time. So I'm assuming this may be one of your first times here. What have you gotten out of your time in Bulgaria?
I'll tell you up front how gracious the Bulgarian people are. They were incredibly welcoming, and the city of Sofia is beautiful, and I'm told I arrived at the right time after 3 weeks of torrential downfall. So the weather's been amazing, the city have been amazing, food's phenomenal, people have been gracious, and I have to tell you, walking into the Ministry of Defense, I see a lot of likeness to how we do things within our own military. So I feel like there was a lot of core foundations for us to build this relationship on.
Awesome.
I was excited.
And I would vouch for the weather. We were here last week. It was every time you wanted to walk to dinner, it would start raining a lot. Okay, last question.
Yeah.
Kind of sum it all up for us. Why is all of that so important?
This project is important to us here at UCOM because it's, as I said, our initial proof of concept and our first real application of the women, peace, and security agenda to our theater operations. The first time we're applying gender perspective to what we do. And given that this year is also the 30th anniversary of the Tennessee National Guard Bulgaria state partnership, it's a great year to make traction on this. Advancing women's participation as a core tenet of what we do in our defense relationships here in UCOM, here in the European theater, is hugely important. And I think it highlights DoD's overall commitment to reflecting the diversity of our populations and building professional militaries.
Mags, that does sound so important, and thank you so much for sharing and coming on the podcast. All right, everybody, this is Lieutenant Colonel Malone back in Bulgaria with a new guest. First off, sir, tell us who you are.
Colonel Christopher Filer.
Welcome to the podcast. All right, tell us where we are.
We are in Sofia, Bulgaria.
Mm-hmm. And what are we? What's this facility?
MMA,
which is the Military Medical Academy.
That is correct.
Yeah, cool. And what are you doing during your visit to Bulgaria?
It's multifaceted. Some of the things that we're doing is building the relationships between us and our partners out here. So this state partnership program is extremely critical in the event of building up the relations and continuing the services that we provide. So some of the ideas behind it is leveraging our capabilities, learning from them as well as them learning from us. So that shared experience will go significantly far when it comes to any kind of emergencies that we may need to participate in, domestic response or humanitarian affairs. So these things have been fabulous to actually participate in. We get to see an organization that doesn't have as much resources as we have, and the way they utilize what they do have is exceptional. So we get to use and bounce ideas off of them to actually improve our own systems.
You kind of answered my next question. I was going to say, what have you gotten out of your time here, out of your visit?
Sure. So my time here it's been great to actually watch how they do things. So learning from them has been spectacular. The other thing is the cultural relations that we're building, getting to understand how to be more interoperable with their systems, as well as learning beforehand, before an engagement ever occurs. We have the opportunity to actually sit down, work through the issues of communication, which is profound. And especially when you get fog of war and you're sitting here trying to treat patients or to run an event, and yet you can't communicate because of the language barriers. Mm-hmm. So these things take all those into account and you can accommodate for it.
Great. And why is all that important?
So in this day and age, when you have multiple fronts, such as issues related to third parties that may be more hostile towards the United States, we're never going to be able to fight the next large-scale war alone. So state partnership programs are ideal in the sense of building that capability to actually bring in our partners. And if you've never been in an environment where you have to engage an enemy with a foreign troops, it is wrong time to learn in the middle of a contested battle because you're not going to do well. Yep. It's already tough enough in a fog of war to actually try to accommodate and make things happen, let alone try then to communicate effectively.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
You bet.
Awesome.
My pleasure.
All right, listeners of the 1796 podcast, still in Bulgaria. Got a brand new guest for you now. and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Who do we have here today?
Hey, good afternoon. This is Lieutenant Colonel Linda Kieser. I'm here in Sofia, Bulgaria, with the Women, Peace, and Security team, and we're working with European Command and the Bulgarian Ministry of Defense on the gender focal point initiatives within our state and also in Bulgaria. We've learned that both our countries have a lot of similarities. However, we do have some differences, and I think we're going to learn from each other and collaborate further in FY24 on the gender focal point initiatives.
That's awesome, Lieutenant Colonel Kieser. Thank you so much for that. You took away my questions. I was going to ask, where are we and what are you doing on the visit? You nailed it. That's perfect. So I got another question for you. What have you gotten out of your time here in Bulgaria?
Well, I feel that we've all learned something from one another. We've built on the relationships that we started, and I really look forward to the initiatives here in the next year or two.
That's awesome. And why is all of that so important?
So Tennessee has partnered with the European Command and Bulgarian Ministry of Defense on the Women, Peace, and Security initiative and this pilot program. I've learned that the application of women, peace, and security in the gender focal point is imperative towards operational success, and of course the need for this to be applied at the strategic level, advancing the importance of women in leadership positions throughout our services and here in Bulgaria.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. All right, Lieutenant Colonel Malone here. We are still in Bulgaria, and we have got a new guest. All right, tell us who you are.
I'm Staff Sergeant Brandon Keys with the 134th Air Refueling Wing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Tell us where we are.
We're at Bezmer Air Base in Bulgaria. It's a great place, and they do a lot of training here, a lot of joint training that we're getting through during this exercise, and it's a pretty cool place.
And what have you been doing while you're here?
I've been doing a number of things, just kind of following the training that's been going on. It's been really great to see us on our side work with the Bulgarians. Of course, we've had the Army here as well in addition. So it's just to see all of us working together has been fun. And so I've been covering that, just the stories, the events, and how well this partnership is really coming together.
So you say covering. When you're covering that, where are these things going out to?
Absolutely. It's going to a place, it's going to Divids first, and that's where people can access the media that we shoot as public affairs. And then from there, it can go anywhere. And so we're really happy to see some of the stories that we've been covering here and throughout this entire training go out and people can see what's happening.
All right, cool. And what have you gotten out of your time here?
It's really, anytime training like this happens where you get to see NATO allies work together, I've personally seen time and again, and this is no different, how well we kind of seamlessly integrate and work together. We have the same ideas, the same goals, and to see it mesh so well together, it reinforces that concept that we're really a great team together. So that's kind of what I take from it.
And why is all of this important?
Well, I think it's important mainly because NATO we want to show the world that these NATO allies are united. So it's important that the public sees, that we are. And so I think being able to help tell these stories, tell the American public and tell the world what's going on here is important. So from my end, I really enjoy it.
You mentioned Divids. Tell everybody what Divids is.
Yeah, Divids is for our branches with the Department of Defense. Each branch has the ability to upload and send information out in imagery that normally media can't get access to. So we do that for them. We'll go out and collect imagery, whether it's photos, video, anything else, potentially podcasts or anything. We upload that, and so people are able to access it from anywhere. So sometimes if you see pictures or video on your local news or even at higher outlets, it's stuff that we have shot and sent out. So Divid is a place where those media outlets can access that footage.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us on the podcast. All right, we're in Bulgaria again. We've got one more interview for you. First off, tell us who you are.
This is Tech Sergeant Ryan Shelton from the 134th Air Refueling Wing.
Welcome to the podcast. And tell us, where are we?
We're at Bezmer Air Base, located in Bulgaria.
And what have you been doing while you're here?
Well, I am traditionally a desktop support technician back home. I partly run the help desk. Here, my main job is making sure that the air crew and maintenance crews, fire response teams all have good communication with each other and are ready to complete the mission.
Awesome. And what have you gotten out of your time here?
The biggest thing I've gotten out of this is it highlights the problems that you may run into going to an austere location or just a base that doesn't have our normal equipment. Or it highlights the things that we need to think of on the front end for planning so that we can make sure the mission is completed.
Awesome. And why is all of this important?
The importance of this, in my opinion, is to create cohesion between our allies and to make the world a safer place, essentially. I mean, that's the general idea.
That's perfect. Thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for listening to the 1796 podcast. If you like what you heard, please consider subscribing, sharing this episode with friends, and giving us a 5-star review. The 1796 podcast is produced by the Tennessee National Guard Joint Public Affairs Office. For more information, please visit www.tn.gov/military.